we're talking about new album Holy Moly, and I
Yeah.
thought I'd start by talking about your uh, input, which is moving from the bass to the guitar and how that worked for you.
Yeah, I mean, it was when before leading up to the album when Dorian left, we sort of didn't really know what we would do. Like we thought about bringing in a new guitar player and stuff as well, but then I guess it sort of happened because since the beginning of the band, me and Elin were always the songwriters in the band, and so as we were writing the new songs, I was already playing guitar on the new songs in the demos and everything. And it just sort of felt like, well, maybe it's easier if I just start to focus more on guitar and sort of take over rather than finding a whole new person to
Right,
come
right.
in, because it's more than just finding a good guitar player. It's like it's a lot of other factors involved as well, where they live and finding someone who fits into the band and everything. And then on top of that, it was also like the thought that bringing someone in completely new would probably change the sound of the band more drastically.
Right,
And
right, right.
so yeah, so that was sort of how it ended up, that I ended up going to the guitar. Yeah.
Right. But I mean, let's face it, being a bass player in a band and being the lead guitarist is a pretty different thing. For you, you have to kind of change the way you approach your performance from standing in the back and plunking along to wailing away.
Yeah, I mean, it is a bit different. Like I'm not quite used to maybe be more in the spotlight in that way, but
Right.
I just I think I'm getting used to it. It starts to feel normal now that I'm playing the guitar.
Right, right. Well, I mean, you kind of look the part in the videos that I've seen, so you got half the battle right there, right?
Yeah.
And you mentioned it's kind of you, and is her name pronounced Elan?
Elin.
Elin. So
Yeah.
the two of you are kind of the core of the band now because the other folks have kind of come and gone. So what's the relationship like musically between the two of you? How do you work together and talk about what you're going to do?
Well, it's always been sort of, I guess, a good teamwork in the way that it's like she's of course a singer and more focused on the melodies and everything. And
Right.
so she's always been good at coming up with melodies and vocal lines and all that. And of course so when she comes with a song, it's often more based on the melody with maybe some chords to it and stuff. And then I'm not a singer at all, but I'm way more focused on the instruments and everything.
Right.
So I'm better at sort of, improving the instrumentation and the arrangements and stuff like that. So it's quite a good combination because we sort of can complement each other in that way.
Gotcha. And when you're in the studio recording these songs, I mean, her vocal is it sounds like a performance. So do you kind of just leave her alone and let her do her thing, or do you all kind of get in there and cheer her along, or how does it work?
I mean, we're definitely really collaborating or like working together in the process quite a bit because we also write all the lyrics together. And
Ah,
also because I'm the English native speaker, I'm
ah,
able to sort of
that's why I'm talking to you, is it?
well, no, I mean they're all speaking good English, but it's like, of course, good to have someone who speaks English as a first language to sort of, it's just maybe easier for me to write lyrics in that way
Sure.
because
Yeah. Yeah.
she's always writing in a second language. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, so I mean, it's definitely a group effort, and even on Andre, in the case with this album, on the drummer Andre, he's been really involved in the whole process from the beginning. So even
Right.
if it's me, Ilan, who maybe come with the main song ideas, he's been with the whole time contributing to that. So
Gotcha. And how do you come to be speaking English as your first language? Are you originally not from Sweden, or just happened to?
no, I'm American.
Oh, join the party. We both escaped.
Yeah. Yeah, pretty much. I grew up in Iowa.
Oh God, that's right in the middle, isn't it?
Yeah.
Right in the old
So
breadbasket.
yeah. And then but I've been living in Sweden for about 8 or 9 years soon. So
Did you just decide to get up and move there, or what prompted you to make that move? It's a big one.
yeah, I mean, it was a lot because of the band, of course, but I had also been in Europe a lot before that because I played in another band before I
Right.
started Bruce Pills, and it was a band called Radio Moscow,
Oh, great.
and we toured we toured all over like Europe and America, and we for 5 years or so. So I'd been coming to Europe like at least once or twice per year for 5 years before I moved to Sweden. So I sort of knew what I was coming to.
Gotcha. And well, speaking of Sweden, what is it like over there now? I don't know if you guys are locked down or doing the virus thing, or if it's kind of gotten away from. What's the status over there? Are you able to do your thing?
Yeah, it's there haven't really been extreme lockdowns in Sweden, so even from the beginning, we've been allowed to sort of do what we want in a way. But of course, for a while, some things were closed down, and there's still, you can't have concerts or anything except for very small ones. I think you're allowed to have like 50 people.
Right.
And but otherwise, I mean, life isn't extremely different, but of course everyone is trying to be careful and everything. But
Yeah.
It's not like in some places where no one can leave the home or anything.
Yeah. Well, we're pretty cool here in New Zealand, but over in Australia, they thought they had it beat, and then they have a big kind of re-emergence of it, so they're all kind of locked down again for 6 weeks. And I spoke to someone else from Sweden a few weeks ago, the singer from The Sounds, and she was giving me kind of the lowdown on what was going on there. I think it was a little more serious at that point than it is now, so
Yeah.
Sounds like it's getting better.
Well, I know Stockholm, of course, have always been sort of the worst place to be during this, but where I've been, it's never really gotten that crazy. So
yeah,
it's nice to be in a smaller town right now.
Right. So back to the album, Holy Moly. How long ago was it recorded? What kind of, do you have kind of overall vision of what it was, or is it a bunch of songs that you guys just had in the works and you're putting them together?
It was, I think it took probably more than a year total from the moment when we actually started writing songs up until when we recorded, or like when we were done recording.
Right.
So we because we had quite a long break before that. We had taken a break from touring just because of we were pretty much burned out from when we released the first album into the second album. We pretty much toured nonstop for about 5 years with no breaks. And so then we decided to take a break. And then after that, this break, during that time, that's also when Dorian left. So then the break became a bit longer because then we sort of needed to regroup and figure that out.
Yep.
And at some point we just decided like, okay, now we're ready to go in and start writing songs. So in the beginning, we just, me, Andrea, and Ialin, we were just going to the studio, our own studio / rehearsal space, and just going there almost every day, like 5 days a week, sort of like a job, and just meeting up every day to just work on music and write songs and start making demos. And then during this demo process, it sort of like slowly evolved to the point where that became the final album, because at first we thought it would just be demos, but then at some point we started to feel like, well, it's already sounding good what we're doing now, so let's just finish it. So it sort of, without intention in the beginning, it sort of evolved from being demos to the final album.
That's pretty nice. Takes a little of the pressure off, right? And I'm curious because some of the lyrics and some of the songs are kind of very kind of pro-feminist or pro whatever, and I'm wondering if you guys talk about that much, or how you all kind of decide on what kind of position you're putting forward on some of these songs.
I mean, well, I guess "Proud Woman" is like the obvious song.
Yeah, definitely.
But I suppose in that case, you know, it was just that song was written really spontaneously. I think that was the fastest written song on the album, because it was just really one of these songs where the whole band is just jamming in one room, and we were just like, oh, let's try to make something like a bit upbeat or something. And I was playing this riff, and Andrea started playing the drums, and then she just started singing that, and that's kind of the first thing that came out. And nice. And it wasn't like, you know, that we sat down and decided to write a song about that. It's more just sometimes you just are jamming and that's what happens, and you're like, oh, it sounds cool, so you keep it. But it wasn't so much more than that. I think, of course, obviously that's something that Elin felt, and that's why she started to sing it. But it wasn't like a big decision or tons of thought into it.
Right. You know? And you guys have a pretty solid hard rock sound, and which is great. But I noticed on track 8, "Wish I'd Known," it's kind of a different vibe. It's almost like Muscle Shoals kind of Alabama feel in that. Is that something you were trying to just kind of stretch out and try a little something different?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's happens just, I mean, most of the music that I listen to be honest, is not very heavy music. It's like, I love like Beatles and George Harrison, and
I
like, and a lot of soul, like Motown and Muscle Shoals. But so I think I was influenced a lot by George Harrison, like the solo albums. I was listening to them a lot.
Oh, yeah.
Around that time, and I think maybe that was sort of one of the influences for that song.
Interesting, because I didn't pick up the George Harrison thing, but I can see it now that I think about it. Yeah, were you listening to like "All Things Must Pass" or "Living in the Material World"?
Like, yeah, for sure, the earlier ones.
Right.
But I think it's in the guitar harmonies, you know, that he likes. It's a lot of like panned, like one guitar in each speaker doing a different harmony and stuff.
Oh, okay, cool. So how much do you guys spend a lot of time in the studio working on stuff, or do you kind of crank it right out? What's it like when you're actually working?
I think the songwriting and arranging part takes a long time for us often, because especially it's probably a bit my fault because I'm known as the one in the band who's overthinking things, but wanting to redo stuff. But I think the actual recording, the version that ends up on the album, especially in this case, oftentimes, even if we did, maybe it took 5 different versions to get there. But the final version that's on the album, it isn't that we like spend a lot of time actually recording.
Right.
So maybe we do a bunch of different versions, but then the final version only took us a few days to record.
Yeah.
But I like to try to record quite fast and just get the initial feeling and stuff. I'm a believer that like the good takes are usually one of the first ones. It doesn't get better. It doesn't get better doing 100 takes.
You just got to make sure everybody holds onto their sticks and doesn't drop their picks, and you're all set to go, right? Can we just talk briefly about the last song on the record, "Longest Lasting Friend"? Can you give me a little behind the scenes on that one? What's happening there? Because it seems also a little bit different than the rest of the stuff.
Yeah, that was that was like basically Elin's song. And I think a lot of times when we come with ideas, it's usually, you know, like an idea on the iPhone, like on voice memo or something, where you just recorded something at home when you had an idea. And a lot of times it starts off really like simple, you know, either like piano or acoustic guitar. And in that case, but then usually we like evolve it into a rock song with all instruments, of course.
Yep.
But in the case with that song, it felt like we just wanted to leave it almost how it was, just extremely stripped down, just like a guitar and vocals.
Yep.
Just because it worked well that way, and because then it was sort of standing out as the song on the album that's just totally sort of naked or whatever, with no drums or anything.
Yeah. So when was the last time the band has played in front of an audience? Has it been a while?
Yeah, it's I don't even like really remember the last actual show, but we did like a couple of these live streams.
Right.
And so I guess if you count that, then that was a few months ago.
That's got to be kind of weird for you guys, because I can see that working for like a sensitive singer-songwriter kind of a deal. But when you're a band and you kind of feed off the energy of the crowd and vice versa, it's got to be difficult, right?
Yeah, it was definitely quite weird because you don't really get any feedback, but I think it turned out pretty good. At least the sound was good because it was filmed in like a nice studio and everything. So
right.
That was, I think it's better than some live streams I've seen where it's just filmed with like one iPhone.
Oh, right. Yes, I've seen some of those.
It doesn't really get a great sound when it's a whole band playing, but
yeah.
But yeah, I think we're looking forward to finally play live again whenever that will be.
Who knows? So are you guys kind of part of a scene over there, or are you kind of out on your own doing your own thing?
I mean, I think in Europe in general, there is definitely kind of some sort of scene for this kind of like rock with a bit of a vintage touch, or whatever you want to call it. But
yep, it's classic rock.
So I mean, for sure, there's a quite a big scene for that in Europe, I would say.
Yeah.
But in Sweden in particular, I think there's quite a few bands playing this kind of music in Sweden. But the thing is that they're not really well known in Sweden. It's more like you're well known in Germany and Central Europe and everywhere else except Sweden.
Because Sweden has quite a legacy of really pop music, right? So you don't really think of hard rock bands per se, I guess. Does that affect you guys?
I mean, I just think that most of the rock bands I know in Sweden all say the same thing. It's like they're big in other countries, but not in Sweden. But yeah, I think that there's definitely I think pop music is quite a bit more popular in Sweden versus rock music. For sure.
Oh, well, I mean, what are you going to do? And I guess that is the next question. What are you going to do? I mean, the album is out in a couple of weeks, and who knows, do you have any tentative plans to kind of creep out and meet up with fans and do some performing?
I mean, not really. Like, unfortunately, I have no idea when we will play live again, but I think
it's got to be a weird thing, just especially for a band like you guys. You're just like raring to go, I would imagine, right?
Well, it was a bit bad timing because we were practicing every single day and getting prepared to go on tour, and that was like right when the corona hit. So
yeah,
it was, we had literally rented the van and had loaded it, and we were on our way. So, and then everything just came crashing down. But yeah, I don't know, we will try to do maybe another live stream where we at least play all the new songs when the album comes out. And other than that, I can't really say when the next live performance will be.
I hear you. Oh, one thing I wanted to ask you if you would do for me, please. We do a little radio program on the website that we're, the 13th Floor it's called. And I was wondering if you wouldn't mind like picking a song from the new album and introing it. We'll play it on the radio.
Okay. Do you know which song you want to play?
Whatever one you want.
Maybe we should take Rhythm in the Blood or something then.
Sure, that's fine. Yep.
So do you want me to just say something like, "This is Zach from Blues Pills," and
Yeah, you can. If there's a little story behind it, great. If not, just whip right into it. However you feel comfortable.
all right. Uh, Hi, this is Zach from Blues Pills, and you are listening to Rhythm in the Blood on 13th Floor.
Beautiful, thank you. So what do you got planned for the rest of your day? Anything exciting?
No, I've got interviews basically all day.
Well, that's good. At least you're talking about the record, talking about the music. It's something. Not quite the same as playing it, I guess, but what are you going to do?
It's been a lot of interviews around this time, so I guess the label's doing something.
Yeah, yes, they definitely are down here, so that's a good sign.
It's been a lot in Australia, actually, like surprisingly a lot.
Yeah, I've been talking to a lot of Australian bands, and it's really interesting because they have quite a close affinity with New Zealand. People come and go back and forth, but they're in such a different place than we are because we're kind of free to do whatever we want to over here, and they can't. So,
how did you end up in New Zealand?
I moved here about 26 years ago. I got a job offer. I'm a video editor. I was, and decided it was the thing to do, and I never regretted it. Yeah, I was in upstate New York, in Rochester, New York.
Cool.
Yeah. So anyway, have a nice day. Have a good one, and hopefully one day you'll come down here and play for us. It'd be great to see you.
I hope so too. All right. Take care.
You too. Bye-bye.